And welcome to this tutorial on Classwork Zoom. So this is a Google Chrome extension that you can use to monitor pupil productivity and engagement within Google products such as Docs, Sheets and Slides. You already may have been using the revision history on Google Docs before to check this in the past. However, if you have, you'll know that it's quite fiddly sometimes to do and isn't the most user-friendly or time efficient, as you have to go into each pupil for each assignment. So what Classwork Zoom does is it allows you to display information from the revision history in timeline form for one or more selected assignments and for a whole class at a time. So let's take a little look at it. So the first thing you need to do is you have to download it. So to do this, you go to the Google Chrome store and you search for Classwork Zoom. Now remember, this isn't the same thing as the Zoom app that you use for meetings or calls. Where mine says rate extension, this is where yours will say download or add to Chrome. So you just click that button and it'll begin to download the extension for you. It'll ask you to sign up and you choose with Google and you sign up with your @larberthighschool.co.uk address. This is normally a paid subscription resource, but I've contacted the owner and we have this free until the 31st of July to try it out. Free access will be automatically applied when you sign up with your Google Classroom account. So once you've downloaded the Classwork Zoom extension on Chrome, you will see the little button on the top right-hand corner of your browser. It's a little computer screen with coloured lines on it. Click this and the following screen will open automatically. So here you can select the class from the drop-down menu list of all your Google Classroom classes that you see here. These are automatically inputted in from your own Google Classroom, so you don't need to do anything. They'll all be here when you open it for the first time. You can also break it down. I'm just going to select first year here. You can also break it down by the students as well. So within that class, you can choose individual students to look at their timeline if you don't want to see everyone's on there. And finally, you can choose which Google Classroom assignment you want to see the productivity for. Now, an important tip here, this is where I found it becomes really important to name your assignments on Google Classroom properly. At the start of lockdown, each week I was just using task 1, task 2, task 3 to name my assignments under each topic. And then I realised after a few weeks I couldn't tell which one was which when I came on here. So you really need to use some unique names so that you're able to see them easily on this list. You'll see here that most of them start with building blocks, which is a topic, and then I can't really actually see what the other ones are. It's also important that you choose assignments that have been completed in Google products such as Docs, Slides or Sheets, as otherwise there'll be no data when you build the timeline. It's only those products that you can see the timeline for. Now, just to point out, the wee eye at the side of each task is to hide. So if you want to, you can hide ones that, for example, are Google form tasks. So you wouldn't be able to use this extension to view them anyway. So you might as well just hide them from view here so that you can't see them anymore. If you do want to find them again, you can just click Show Hidden at the bottom. So I'm going to open an old project from here. And when you're ready and you've selected your class, what students you want to use, it automatically selects all class, and which assignments you want to use, you can then click Build Timeline. Another great feature of this before I click that is that you don't only have to choose one assignment for one class, you can choose multiple assignments at once. So if you've set a few assignments each week, you can look at them all at once instead of going into every single one individually. Once you click Build Timeline, it starts to process. It connects to the Google servers and it gets the revision history of the documents so that it can process them and display them in a timeline. One warning is it can sometimes take a little while for this to work, so you can sometimes be waiting a couple of minutes for the timeline to appear. So when it does appear, it'll be centred on the last time that the assignment was worked on by a pupil, and you might think it looks empty and that there's no work when you look down, but actually if you scroll down, you'll see there's a little block of work here by Nenda, who was really, really studious and did some final edits in her reports outside of class before the deadline. So if you hover over it, you can see that she did about 16 minutes at around 7:15 on Thursday the 3rd of October. If I scroll to the right, you can see a little red bit at the top of the screen that will come up on the next day. Yep, this bit here. So at midnight was when the EM Spectrum project report was due. So you can see the deadline with this little red arrow in the top corner. So it'll be easy to see when basically pupils do work right before the hand-in time, which my wonderful little class in this case didn't do, as they'd all finished it beforehand. Now, all students in this class are down the left-hand side along with the document associated with the assignment. So I only chose one assignment, so it's just this one document that's beside each name. But if you'd chosen, say, 5 assignments, they would be grouped by person. So you would see all of Caris's assignments beside her name, etc., etc. Now, if you click on the left-hand arrows, these ones that go down here beside each name, it will jump back to the last block of work done by that student in that document. So if I stick with Nenda, I'm going to jump back. This was the block she did just before it was due. I jump back again. Here was the last time she did a little bit of work. And if I jump back one more time, this takes us back to when you can suddenly see quite a lot of work across everyone's documents here. So this is basically when the pupils were in class doing it. They were given time to complete it in class that afternoon. So basically the idea with this is you can hover over these blocks, which are blocks of work. By hovering over things, you get extra information. So by hovering over the document under the person's name, you'll tell you how many days between the pupil's first and last edit of the document, and you can also see in how many days 5 or more minutes of work was done. And here, under the assignment, you can see the total amount of time worked by the student within that document. So if I go down and we'll have a look at, or maybe I'll show up this way. Yeah, so if we look at Kira's one here, Kira, for example, wasn't in class that day. So there's no blocks of work showing, but I can see that in total, she still did 1 hour and 14 minutes of work on her assignment. If I scroll down to the bottom of the timeline, you see everyone in the class here, but at the bottom of the timeline, you can see that there is an extra category that says not in this class, but they have edited a document. In this case, it was the cover teacher for one of my lessons, Mr. Burns, and you will also see pupils here if they've left your Google Classroom that you have as well. So they'll come at this bit down the bottom, and you'll see he only did 1 second of work, so he was obviously just going on to check something that they were doing. So let's hover over a wee block of work here. So in this example, Lexi did 1 hour, 35 minutes of work in this block, but she did 1 hour and 33 minutes work before this block happens, and it tells you the percentage as well. And basically tells you how many minutes in this block where she didn't have 5 minutes or more, no more than 5 minutes break, basically, between edits. You can also zoom out to get a better overall view by going up here. You can either use this to go earlier or later, or you can zoom out. Now, the options for zooming out is you can view 2-hour block of the timeline, 1 day, 1 week, or the full range of time over which the members of the class edited the assignment. You can see how much work the full class did in the document from the moment that it was started to the moment that they finished it as well. Until the moment it was due to the deadline. It also means you can easily spot in one go if there was a mad rush at one point near the assignment deadline to get it finished, but overall you can see my class did a little bit every so often here. Now this also syncs up with your calendar, so if you put your Google Calendar, your class times into your Google Calendar, they'll show up as little blocks along the top here of the timeline so that you can check easily if they've completed work in class or whether they've completed bits or blocks of work outside of class time as well. Now I'm just going to zoom back in so I can explain a little bit more about some of the blocks here. So if we go back a little bit to when everyone was doing their work. So basically here, these little red lines are quite interesting. So I found it useful as it allows you to identify if pupils have appeared to paste a large amount of text at once, and this helps avoid potential issues with plagiarism. So I know, for example, that I've had students in the past who have obviously copied and pasted whole Wikipedia articles for the topical science reports, and they were adamant that they hadn't, but this would help to prove it. So you'll see in the docs, it does pasting detection, shown by these red lines here, within blocks of work, and it'll give you a percentage based on how many characters seem to appear at once in a document, with a hover preview of the text as well. So it gives you a percentage chance that it was pasted. So let's look at a couple of examples of this. So here they think that in 39 characters it might have been pasted here at this point. It's a 44% certainty chance with that one. If we look at a slightly different one, let's go to this one here. This bit here looks like quite a large bit. So if we look at this one, it says that 431 characters ended up being suddenly appearing in the document at this point. So that's a 99% certainty by the system that this has been copy and pasted in, and we can tell from that. So this is really, really useful at helping you to identify if pupils are just copying and pasting large sections of their text in. Now for the next bit, I'm going to use a couple of screenshots to show you. just because they're not things that I found in my own pupils' examples before. So I need to kind of use pictures from some other people's examples to show you. So this screenshot at the top represents the left-hand side of that timeline I showed you with the pupils' names and the names of their assignments. So if you see a little symbol with a picture of people and a number under one of the documents, like this one here, it'll tell you how many people have edited that document. It's not always a red symbol. If it's red, that means someone outside the class or who wasn't assigned it edited it. So it also lets you see if people were given a hand on individual assignments that were meant to be completing alone. And in this example here, we could click into this and we would be able to see underneath this example here, and it said that the main person that owns the assignment, who's the editor, did 99.9% of the work, whereas this other person who wasn't assigned it came on and did 0.1% of the work. So it lets you see if people were given a hand, and in this example here, you can check what percentage of keystrokes were completed by that other person. Now, it's not always the case that someone's helping when they shouldn't be. So if you want to have collaboration or group work between students so they can all work on a presentation, for example, Classwork Zoom would be really useful for that. It would mean that you could assign that document to all of those people, but then later on, you could check what percentage of the work was actually done by each of those pupils in that group. So if you click it, you can see the percentage of keystrokes done by each pupil, and you can also change it using this wee bit at the top to see the editing time that was done by each pupil as well. So this would be really, really useful. You could look at it in terms of an added thing to see if some people were pulling their weight or not in group work. So I find this tool really, really useful, not just when people are working on assignments and work at home, but could also be really useful in the future when all of our pupils get one-to-one devices. So for example, if you think about your pupils sitting in class working on their iPads on an assignment, you give them a Google Classroom and they think we can't see them, so they do a lot of that thing where they switch between screens really quickly when they're not actually working on their document. By using Classwork Zoom, you'd be able to see how much time pupils actually spent editing their document during that lesson, and it gives you an overview of the whole thing. The other great thing I really personally love about it is even if you just download it now, you're able to go back and access any assignment that you previously assigned on Google Classroom in the exact same way. So I was able to go back and look at the last 12 weeks of assignments I'd assigned to pupils in lockdown. I could have gone back to a few years ago if I wanted, when I'd only actually downloaded this extension last week. So I can also use it to look at assignments from archived classes as well, as the documents they made are still within the folders within my Google Drive. Now, there is a few potential issues that I have found with this. First one is I've not actually tried this on my iPad, so I'm not sure how usable it is on Chrome on the iPad, but I'm hoping it would still work in quite the same way, but I still need to work that out. I usually use my laptop or my desktop a lot more to look at things like this. I also tend to use things like Google Forms a lot for assignments with my classes, and this doesn't work for those type of assignments. Remember, this only works if they have used Google Docs, slides, sheets, drawings, those ones that you can set within Drive that have created a template document. So overall, this extension will be really useful to you if you often use assignment or assign Google Documents for pupils to work on instead of them uploading their own. And as I said, we have a free trial until the end of July, and then if people find it useful, we can look into either a whole school license or you can get discounts for groups of 10 teachers who would like to sign up together. So I hope that's useful, and I hope that's a tool that you might be able to use to check engagement and productivity with your classes. Thank you for listening.